Section 1. I'd already nodded by the time she pushed the paper over. I agreed by the kitchen sink. My hands were still covered in dish soap foam. The faucet was running, and I heard her toss the file folder onto the coffee table in the living room. It landed with a thwack, like the final stamp on a verdict. Lin Jixia casually tied up her hair and stood in front of the entryway mirror, reapplying her lipstick without looking back. "Let's go to the notary's office tomorrow." She said it lightly, as if she were saying, "Pick up a bag of rice on your way." I didn't think much of it. I wiped my hands and agreed, sure. At that moment, I even thought of myself as quite sensible. We had been dating for 2 years, had a wedding date set, and the house renovations were in their final stages. When she got emotional, she liked to use a sense of ceremony to overcome our arguments. I had always thought this prenuptial property notarization was just another one of her ceremonies. Put the unease into a document, stamp it, and we could move forward with peace of mind. I walked over with a glass of water and sat down across from her. Inside the folder was a stack of A4 paper, crisp and new, the corners showing faint white marks from where her nails had pressed them. The title on the first page was printed squarely, Prenuptial Property Agreement. I flipped through a couple of pages. The contents were very reasonable. I had bought the house before the marriage, paid the down payment, and was paying the mortgage. The car was hers, and assets under our individual names would remain our own after marriage. Our postmarital incomes would be used for our shared life, and expenditures would require communication. These words looked like a forecast for a peaceful life. I flipped through it quickly, so quickly that I felt a bit self-deprecating. A man about to get married, still needing a few pieces of paper to remind himself of assets under our individual names. Until the last page. The last clause was only a single line, the text blacker than the rest, as if it had been intentionally bolded. If the marriage is dissolved due to the husband's fault, including but not limited to cheating, ambiguous chats, spending the night alone with a person of the opposite sex, concealing social media interactions, etc., the husband voluntarily and unconditionally transfers all rights and interests of his prenuptial house to the wife. I stared at that line, my eyes feeling as if they'd been scraped by something. Steam was still rising from the water glass, but my throat was tight and dry. The words ambiguous chat stung, making my fingers flinch. The edge of the paper rustled faintly against my fingertips. Lin Jixia finally turned around, leaning against the arm of the sofa, her tone even. "What's wrong?" I tried to smile but couldn't. "This clause." "Who wrote it?" "I did." She was very frank. "Otherwise, would you take it seriously?" I placed the paper back on the coffee table, my fingertip pressing on that last line as if pinning down a needle. "Do you know what you've written?" I looked up at her. "Ambiguous chats, concealing interactions." "How are these defined?" "With a single word from you. My prenuptial house could become yours." She walked over and pushed my hand away as if I were blocking the TV she wanted to watch. "If you've done nothing wrong, what are you afraid of?" When she said this, there was even a hint of grievance in her eyes, as if I were the one who had shown distrust first. I heard a thump in my heart. It wasn't fear. It was a familiar sense of helplessness, like the time she went through my phone, found a female colleague's profile picture in a group chat, and asked me, "How do you know her?" I explained for ages, but her final sentence was still, "What are you so agitated about?" Got a guilty conscience. Back then, I had thought, she just lacks a sense of security. But now, she had turned that insecurity into a clause, into a tangible consequence. I looked at her hands. Those same hands had just been helping me pick out tile colors, helping me measure for curtains. There was a faint tan line on the back of her hands. Now her fingernails tapped lightly on the corner of the paper, the rhythm unhurried, as if she were urging me to sign. I suddenly thought of the final renovation payment I had just made that afternoon, $108,000. The successful transfer screenshot was still on my phone. In the memo, I had written, "Finishing up our new home." She had seen that transfer too. She had been hugging me from behind at the time, saying, "You've worked so hard. Once the renovation is done, we'll truly have a home." Now when I thought back to that phrase, "have a home," a chill ran down my spine. "Jixia," I kept my voice down. "Do you think I would do those things?" She looked at me for 2 seconds, as if weighing whether my tone deserved a softer reply. "Of course I hope you won't," she said. "That's why I wrote it down. It's only binding if it's written down." I heard my own breathing grow heavier. What about you? I asked. What if you do something I can't stand? Is there a clause for you? Her expression instantly darkened. What do you mean? She snatched the papers away, clutching them to her chest. I asked you to get a notarization, and you start trying to settle scores with me? I didn't want to settle scores. I wanted to say, this isn't a notarization, it's a leash, and the end of it isn't tied around her. But before I could get the full sentence out, her phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and silenced it. 2 words flashed on the screen, Mom. Lin Jixia slammed her phone face down on the sofa, her tone growing colder. Don't make things complicated. See you at the entrance of the notary's office at 10 tomorrow. If you really want to get married, then stop playing word games. After she finished, she turned and went to the bedroom, not closing the door completely, leaving a crack. I sat in the living room. The stack of papers on the coffee table felt like a freshly forged piece of iron, too hot to touch, yet impossible to avoid. The faucet in the kitchen was still dripping, drip by drip, as if counting down for me. I picked up my phone and opened a renovation group chat. The construction team had sent a picture. The living room's suspended ceiling was finished, the light trough clean. Below was a message. Bro, come for the inspection tomorrow. I stared at that word, tomorrow, and suddenly wanted to ask myself, am I going to inspect a house tomorrow or inspect a relationship? Section 2. I put down should and picked up proof. The next morning, I didn't go to the notary's office. I went to work. At 9:30, the air conditioning in the conference room was so cold it made the backs of my hands chill. I opened my laptop and stared at the scanned copy of the agreement on the screen. The cursor blinked on the last clause, as if hesitating at the edge of a wound. My phone vibrated. A voice message from Lin Jixia, no longer than 3 seconds. Where are you? I didn't reply. The second voice message was even shorter. Don't embarrass me. I stared at the words embarrass me and suddenly remembered what she had said last night. If you really want to get married. She always liked to treat marriage as a kind of qualification review. I picked up my glass, took a sip, and only then realized the water was cold. I put my phone back on the desk, opened my banking app, and scrolled through my recent transactions. The final payment for the renovation, deposits for appliances, the deposit for the wedding planner. Every single payment felt like I was dropping a coin into a shared future. But that piece of paper told me, if that future ever shattered, the shards would only pierce me. I called my childhood friend, Zhou Fong. Zhou Fong was the type of guy who was flippant on the surface, but had a good head on his shoulders. As a salesman, he'd seen too many sweet talk now, settle scores later scenarios. He picked up quickly. Yo, the groom-to-be. I skipped the pleasantries and asked directly, do you think it's normal for a prenuptial agreement to state that if he has ambiguous chats, the house goes to her? The other end of the line was silent for 2 seconds, then he burst out laughing. Who taught her to write that? Tick-tock. I didn't laugh. Zhou Fong sobered up. Buddy, that's not a prenup. That's her treating you as a safety net. Your house is your foundation, and she's coming after your foundation. My Adam's apple bobbed. She said it's for her sense of security. A sense of security isn't built on someone else's house, Zhou Fong said. Ask her this. Would she be willing to add a clause saying that if something happens, she gives her things to you? See how she flips out. I was silent. Zhou Fong added, his voice lowering, don't rush to fight. First, think about why she suddenly wants this. Why didn't she mention it before? Now that the renovation is almost done, the wedding date is set, and the money has been spent, she pulls out this clause. That's called strategic timing. The word strategic timing felt like ice water poured on the back of my neck. I remembered the incoming call on her phone yesterday labeled Mom. I remembered her saying, don't embarrass me. Then I recalled 2 weeks ago when her mom came over for dinner, picked up a piece of fish with her chopsticks, and said with a smile, Little Sue, you're such a steady kid. With Jixia with you, we can rest assured. Towards the end of that meal, her dad suddenly brought it up. Are you putting Jixia's name on the deed? A girl needs to have some security, after all. I laughed it off at the time, saying, we'll discuss it after the wedding. Let's finish renovating the house first. They didn't press the issue. I thought it was just an offhand comment. Thinking back now, it wasn't offhand. It was groundwork. The conference room door was pushed open, and a colleague poked their head in. Brother Sue, the 10:30 client is about to arrive. I nodded, closed the laptop, and as I stood up, The legs of the chair made a sharp screech against the floor. I went to the restroom and splashed my face with water. The person in the mirror had faint dark circles under his eyes, his mouth set in a tight line, as if holding something back. I suddenly realized I had always been playing the part of the one who should. I should understand her insecurity, I should tolerate her sensitivity, I should take a step back for the sake of the marriage, and then another. But the words on that paper didn't speak of should. They spoke of consequences. I returned to my desk and opened my phone. Lin Jixia had sent another text. "What on earth do you mean? If you're not coming, then let's call off the wedding." I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the screen for a long time before I finally typed a line. "We could get it notarized. Add one more clause. If the marriage is dissolved due to the wife concealing significant debt or engaging in improper relations with another man, the wife's personal assets shall be used for equivalent compensation." I sent it. The word "delivered" appeared on the screen. Less than 10 seconds later, she replied, "Are you insane? Are you insulting me?" I leaned back in my chair, my chest feeling tight, as if something was pressing against it. She didn't say fine, fair enough, nor did she say we can discuss it. Her first reaction was, "I've been insulted." So, in her world, for me to be tied down was security, but for her to be constrained was an insult. I sent another message. "Then is your clause also insulting me?" She didn't reply. 5 minutes later, she called. I picked up but said nothing. Lin Jixia's voice was fast, tinged with suppressed anger. "Did someone stir things up for you? Zhou Feng? Or your mom? I knew all you men are the same. You hear notarization, and you react like your tail's been stepped on." I gripped the phone, my knuckles a little white. I didn't listen to anyone. I said, "I only look at the paper." She let out a cold laugh. "What's wrong with paper? If you're truly clean, you wouldn't be afraid to write 10,000 clauses." I heard a snap as something in my mind broke. "Jixia," I slowed my speech. "What you want isn't for me to be clean. What you want is to be able to declare me dirty at any time." Silence on the other end of the line. I could even imagine her expression at that moment. A slight furrow in her brows, lips pursed, as if figuring out how to steer the conversation back to her advantage. And she found it quickly. "If that's how you want to think," she said, "then let's call it off. Don't get married either. You live in a house yourself." Before she hung up, her voice carried a deliberately patronizing ease, as if she were the one who could walk away at any moment. I put down the phone, and the screen went dark. The sun outside the office window was bright, reflecting glaringly off the glass. I suddenly understood one thing. If I continued to approach this relationship with shoulds, she would only settle it with clauses. What I needed wasn't an argument. It was to extricate myself from being defined. I opened my computer and clicked on cloud storage. I organized the house purchase contract, down payment transfer records, loan repayment statements, and renovation payment vouchers, one by one, into a folder. I didn't name the folder Love or Wedding. I wrote my things. When I went back in the evening, Lin Jixia wasn't there. Half of the shoe cabinet in the entryway was empty. Her frequently worn white ankle boots were gone, and even her toothpaste in the bathroom was squeezed flat at the end, like a hurried trace of departure. The living room light wasn't on, neon lights from outside shone in, and the stack of papers on the sofa was still in its original spot. I didn't touch it. I hung up my jacket, walked into the bedroom, and opened the wardrobe. A few of her clothes were missing, not many, as if deliberately leaving me with the illusion of "I'll be back." On the nightstand was a ring box, red velvet, its lid not tightly closed, revealing a sliver of silver light. I bought that ring last month. I had spent a long time choosing at the counter, palms sweating, afraid of picking the wrong one. The saleswoman smiled and said, "Sir, you seem quite nervous." I smiled faintly and said, "Afraid she won't like it." Now, looking at that ring, I suddenly felt that back then I wasn't afraid she wouldn't like it. I was afraid I wasn't enough. Afraid I didn't give enough, wasn't stable enough, wasn't worthy enough for her peace of mind. But her peace of mind was bought with my house. The sound of keys came from outside the door. Lin Jixia pushed the door open and entered, carrying the scent of cold wind, her face even colder than the wind. She spotted the ring box on the nightstand at a glance, paused her steps, then immediately looked away as if the object were burning her. "So you did come back?" She threw her bag onto a chair, her voice sharp, leaving me stranded outside the notary's office this morning. You're quite something. I looked at her, not rushing to explain. I took a piece of paper from the drawer, which I had printed that afternoon. It wasn't some clause. It was a simple list, with only 3 lines of text. Pre-marriage. Each person retains their own property. Post-marriage. Shared expenses are shared. Accounts are open. Before marriage. If either party has debts, loans, or guarantees, they must truthfully inform the other. I placed the paper on a coffee table and pushed it towards her. Lin Jixia glanced down at it, then scoffed. You really think you're an accountant? Don't you like things to be clearly written? I said. She looked up, her gaze suddenly sharp. Are you trying to force me? I didn't back down. I'm not forcing you. I said. I'm protecting myself. Your paper only protects you. Her lips tightened, as if a raw nerve had been touched, and her breathing quickened. Su Chung, she called me by my full name, her voice low. Don't forget, we're getting married. Acting like this makes me feel like you don't love me at all. I heard the word love come out of her mouth like a card being played. Before, when she played this card, I would immediately surrender. Now I just felt tired. Love isn't for exchanging houses. I said, love isn't meant to be used to scare people either. Lin Jixia's eyes were slightly red. The tears came as they pleased. She had always been good at this. Tears needed no explanation. Tears themselves were an accusation. She wiped the corner of her eye, her voice trembling. I just want some security. Why do you have to think so badly of me? I stared at her hand. On it was the bracelet I had given her, a thin band. The clasp was a little loose. She often said, help me fasten it. I used to think this was intimacy. Now I suddenly realized the clasp was loose so that I would always have a reason to get close. You want security? Fine, I said. Let's make the security mutual. If you're not willing, then what you want isn't security, it's an advantage. Her face paled instantly. How could you say that about me? Her voice rose. Do you have someone else? Is that why you're afraid of that clause? I couldn't help it. I let out a laugh. The moment it escaped, even I was stunned. It turned out I wasn't incapable of fighting back. I was just too afraid of loss before, afraid of saying something too harsh, afraid she would turn and walk away. But she had already used leaving as a threat far too many times. See, I said, you're starting again. You don't need evidence. You just need a conclusion. She gritted her teeth, her fingers tightening on her bag strap. There was a fresh scratch on the strap, as if it had just been scraped against something. My gaze fell on the corner of an envelope peeking out from the side pocket of her bag. It was white with red print. My heart sank. I reached out to take it. Lin Jixia jerked the bag to her chest, as if protecting a secret. The movement was too fast, too instinctive. I didn't try to grab it again, just stared at her. What is that? Her lips moved, but she didn't answer. I walked to the entryway, picked up the other earring she had forgotten that morning, and placed it in my palm. The back of the earring was a little dusty, like an old item dug out from the bottom of a drawer. Where did you go today? I asked. Lin Jixia's breath hitched. To see a friend, she said quickly. Is that any of your business? I nodded, as if finally snapping a puzzle piece into place. Fine, I said. Then I won't care where you go either. I'll only care about one thing. Before we get married, you will tell me clearly about all the loans, debts, and guarantees in your name. If you don't, then we can forget about any notarization, forget about any wedding. She stared at me, a tear clinging to her eyelashes like a droplet about to fall. What right do you have to investigate me? Her voice trembled. What do you take me for? I looked at her and slowly let out the words. I see you as the person I'm going to spend my life with. That's why I don't want to wait until after we're married to discover that what I signed wasn't a vow, but a bill. The living room was so quiet only the low hum of the air conditioner could be heard. Lin Jixia stood frozen, as if she suddenly didn't know which method to use to control the situation. Crying, making a scene, threats, the silent treatment. She had tried them all, but for the first time, I wasn't being led by her. Just then, her phone lit up. She instinctively went to press it. Her movement panicked, as if she was afraid I would see. But the screen had already flashed a preview of a line. Mom, don't change the last clause. We must get the house. Don't go soft. That line of text was like a nail, pinning the air to the wall. Lin Jixia's hand froze in midair, the color draining from her face. I said nothing, just gently closed the ring box. Jixia, My voice was level. "You didn't suddenly want to get this notarized. You were suddenly certain that I had run out of ways to back out." Her lips trembled, as if she wanted to explain, to argue, to turn this message into another misunderstanding. I didn't give her the chance to talk her way out of it. I picked up the agreement from the coffee table, tore off the last page, and folded it into a small strip. The paper was thick, making a crisp sound as it tore. I put the strip of paper into the trash can and closed the lid. "The security you want, I can't give it," I said. "What I can give is shouldering life together, not throwing myself into a set of clauses." Lin Jixiao looked at the trash can, and the tears finally fell. But in her cries, there was no apology, only a loss of control. I stood in the middle of the living room, and for the first time, felt that the air in this new, not yet inspected house was clean. So clean that I could hear the long overdue words in my own heart. "I don't know anyone a house to be worthy of being loved." Section 4. She reached for the phone. I held the ring box tighter. The message glowed in the light of her palm. She looked up at me, as if her cards had just been revealed, her first reaction not to explain, but to press the phone against her chest. "Don't look." Her voice was tight. I didn't move. I just watched her hand, the fingertips trembling slightly, as if they had just touched a hot pan. Lin Jixiao bit her lip, tears still on her face, and forced out a sentence. "That's just my mom talking nonsense. Don't take it seriously." I snapped the ring box shut and placed it back on the bedside table. The sound of the lid closing was soft, but to her ears, it was the sound of a verdict. "Your mother can be this ridiculous," I said, "and you can stand there and not refute her, even using this agreement to pressure me." Her eyes grew redder, as if she had finally found an opening to counterattack. "How am I pressuring you? I just want you to have some boundaries." She raised her voice. "Look at you now, talking like you're interrogating a criminal." I took a breath, a dull ache in my chest. I wasn't interrogating her. I was trying to determine if I was dealing with a person who wanted to build a life with me, or a group of people scheming for my apartment. She still clutched her bag, the corner of an envelope peeking out, its red characters made starker by the neon lights. I pointed at it. "What's that envelope?" She hid the bag behind her back, her movements swift. "It's nothing." "If it's nothing, why are you hiding it?" She was at a loss for words, swallowing hard as her gaze drifted away. I took a half step forward and stopped, not pressing further. "Take it out now and tell me," I said, "and we can still talk." Lin Jixia seemed to crumble under the weight of my words, her shoulders slumping. She slowly placed the bag on the sofa, unzipped it, and fumbled inside before pulling out the envelope and placing it on the coffee table. The logo of a bank was printed on it. She didn't push it towards me, but kept her palm pressed on it, as if holding down a piece of cracking ice. I reached out and pulled the envelope from under her hand. My fingertips brushed against hers, and she recoiled as if scalded. I opened it. It wasn't a collection notice, but a credit approval notification. The amount wasn't large, 200,000. The name wasn't hers. It was her father's. The date on it was from last week. I looked up at her, and tears streamed down her face, as if she could no longer hold them back. "My dad." Her voice was hoarse. "He co-signed a loan for a friend, and the friend skipped town. Now the bank is pressing him for the money." I said nothing. The air conditioner hummed in the living room, its breeze gently lifting the edge of the paper with a soft rustle. Lin Jixia clutched her sleeve, her nails digging into the fabric, her voice sounding as if it were squeezed from between her teeth. "He doesn't dare tell my mom," she said. "If my mom finds out, she'll explode." She said we have to get the apartment before we get married. So, at least there's a fallback. After saying this, as if ashamed of her own words, she raised a hand to cover her face. I looked at her back and felt a sudden sense of bewilderment. So it wasn't that she suddenly needed a sense of security. She had been suddenly backed into a corner and wanted to grab onto me, this pillar, to prop up the crumbling wall of her family. But the method she chose was to change the name on the pillar to hers. I put the notice back in the envelope and pushed it in front of her. "What would have happened if you had told me sooner?" I asked. She shook her head, crying. "You would have backed out. You were afraid I'd back out. So you set a trap for me first," I said. "Do you think this is what love is?" She looked up, her eyes red, as if I had hit a nerve she was desperately trying to protect. "I didn't set a trap. she choked out. I just wanted to secure our future. A future isn't something you steal, I said. She shot up from her seat, her emotions flaring. Then what do you want me to do? My dad calls me every day, and my mom pressures me every day. She says all you men say nice things, but once we're married, the apartment is yours, and you can kick me out anytime. I didn't respond to her shouting. I only asked, so you decided to kick me out first. She froze for 2 seconds, her lips trembling as if wanting to argue, but unable to find the words. She suddenly lunged forward and grabbed my arm. Her grip was strong, her nails digging painfully into my skin through the fabric. Su-chung, please don't go. Her voice trembled. Give me some time, I'll talk to my mom. I'll fix this. Don't give me a death sentence over this. I looked at the hand gripping my arm. That hand used to hold me coquettishly. Now, it held me out of fear that I would pull away. I can give you time, I said. But the wedding is on hold. The notarization is also on hold. You need to tell me everything about your family situation and your own. Lin Jixia's breath hitched, as if cut off by my words. She looked up, a flicker of panic in her eyes. I told you about my family situation, she said. As for my own, there's nothing. I didn't expose her lie. I just stared at her. Don't let me hear it from somewhere else. She let go of me and took a step back, her back against the sofa, as if finally realizing she was no longer in control of this negotiation. She picked up her phone, her fingers tapping rapidly. I saw the dialing screen. The contact name was Mom. The moment the call connected, her tears fell harder and her voice softened, as if she had put on a different face. Mom, don't be like this, she said. He doesn't agree. He wants to stop the wedding. I couldn't hear what was said on the other end, but her face grew paler and paler. She gritted her teeth, as if resisting something. Don't come to our house. Don't cause trouble. But the more she said don't come, the more it sounded like an invitation. In less than 20 minutes, the doorbell rang. It was loud, 3 consecutive rings like the striking of a gong. I walked to the door and, through the peephole, saw her mother's face. It was pressed so close I could count the wrinkles on her forehead. Her father stood behind her, holding a bag of fruit, his expression stiff. I opened the door. Her mother's eyes swept the room the moment she entered, a gaze that seemed to be taking inventory. She spoke before she had even properly changed her shoes. Su-chung, what is the meaning of this? Her voice was shrill. My daughter has been with you for 2 years. The wedding date was set, and now you're just calling it off? I gently closed the door and locked it. Auntie, please sit, I said. She didn't sit. She stood in the center of the living room, as if about to pass judgment. I've seen plenty of men like you, she said, pointing at me. All talk of love, but you run at the first sign of trouble. Do you have someone else? Or do you think my daughter isn't good enough for you? Lin Jixia stood at the bedroom doorway, her face pale, looking like she wanted to intervene, but didn't dare. Her father coughed and tugged at her mother's sleeve. Don't shout. Her mother shook him off. I shouldn't shout. If I don't, who's going to stand up for our daughter? I picked up the agreement from the coffee table, turned to the last clause, and placed it in front of her mother. Did you ask her to write this? I asked. Her mother's eyes flickered, but her expression quickly hardened again. So what if I did? If you have nothing to hide, what are you afraid of? I nodded. Then let me add a clause as well. I said, if, after marriage, the wife conceals significant debt or commits an act that harms the marriage, she will provide equal compensation. Do you think that's acceptable? Her mother reacted as if her tail had been stepped on. What do you mean? Are you saying my daughter has debts? You're slandering her. I didn't raise my voice. I'm not slandering anyone, I said, looking at Lin Jixia. I'm just asking for fairness. You want me to use my premarital house as collateral for your security? Then you should offer something of equal value. Her mother sneered, slapping the agreement back onto the coffee table. You want fairness? She said. You're a man. The house should naturally be in the woman's name. Once you're married, why distinguish between what's yours and what's mine? By being so calculating, you're just showing you don't consider my daughter family. My throat tightened, but I held back. I'm willing to treat her as family, I said. The prerequisite is that she also treats me like a person, not a property deed. A brief silence fell over the living room after that sentence. Lin Jixia's shoulders trembled, as if my words had struck a point of shame. Her mother grew even angrier and turned on her. Look at the kind of man you've found. I told you long ago. You can't rely on a man like this. Her father put down the fruit. That's enough, he said in a low voice. Her mother wouldn't listen, instead turning her attack towards my parents. And where are your parents? She demanded. Get them out here. I want to ask them just how they raised their son. I looked her mother in the eyes and said slowly, Auntie, I bought this house before the marriage. The down payment, the mortgage, the renovations, it was all me. I understand you want security, but for you to demand it be handed over directly, I cannot accept that. As if the words handed over had exposed her, a flash of embarrassment crossed her mother's face, quickly replaced by even greater ferocity. So what if we take it? When a girl marries you, isn't she giving her whole life to you? Is she the one getting the short end of the stick or not? I stretched the corners of my mouth, unable to form a smile. Whether she's getting a bad deal isn't proven by me handing over a house, I said. If she doesn't trust me, then we shouldn't get married. Even if we did, it wouldn't last. Lin Jixia suddenly rushed out and stood between us, her eyes frantic. Stop talking, she yelled at her mother, and then at me. Both of you, just stop. Her mother grabbed her hand. Let's go, we're going home. Don't marry this kind of man. Lin Jixia didn't move. She stood rooted to the spot, her gaze seemingly torn in two. One half on me, the other half on her mother. Her father sighed and finally spoke, his voice very low. Little Sue, the family is indeed going through some things. If you're willing to help out, we'll owe you one. I looked at his tired face. He wasn't a bad person, but he said, help out, so naturally, as if I owed it to them. I nodded. I can help, but on one condition, you have to be honest. After you're honest, we can discuss how to face this together. Her mother immediately cut in. Face what? If you can handle it. Then sign the house over to Jixia. I'll only believe you once it's signed. She said the word believe as if it were a transaction. I finally understood that no resolution was possible today. I walked to the entryway and took a small card from a drawer. A locksmith's business card. I placed the card on the coffee table and pushed it in front of Lin Jixia. She froze. I said, go back to your mother's place for tonight. I'll have the locks changed tomorrow. I'll give you a key. If you want to come back to pack your things, let me know in advance. Lin Jixia's eyes widened instantly. You're kicking me out? Not rushing. I said it's stopping. Stopping things, stopping the fire. Her mom exploded. You dare change the locks? What gives you the right to change the locks? I looked at her. On the grounds that this house is in my name, and on the grounds that I don't want to be forced to sign papers in the middle of the night. Lin Jixia stood there, as if all her strength had been drained. Her lips moved, her voice very soft. Su Cheng, you've changed. I looked at her, a scraping feeling in my chest. I haven't changed, I said. I just finally stopped playing dumb. Her mom was dragging her towards the door, still cursing. As she was pulled to the doorway, Lin Jixia looked back at me. In that glance, there was hatred and panic, and also a hint of, as if she finally knew she had done wrong, but was still betting that I would soften. I didn't follow. When the door closed, only the low hum of the air conditioner remained in the room. I stood in the center of the living room, my fingertips ice cold. I picked up the ring box and placed it in the very back of a drawer. The drawer closed with a click, as if a certain future was also closed shut. Chapter 1 on my way to change the door lock. A text message stopped me first. The next morning, the locksmith arrived. He wore a gray work uniform, and his toolbox clanged as he opened it, the smell of metal instantly filling the entryway. Sir, changing to an anti-theft lock cylinder? He asked. I nodded. He lowered his head and got to work, his movements skilled, the sound of the screws coming out crisp. I stood to the side, watching the old lock cylinder being pulled out like pulling out an old habit. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I thought it was Lin Jixia. When I took it out, it was a text from an unknown number. XX Finance, you have submitted your personal information authorization and a credit check is in progress. If this was not you, please call immediately. I stared at the line of text, my scalp tingling. My palms were sweating. The locksmith was still banging and hammering at the door, as if nothing had happened. I walked to the balcony, closed the glass door, and only then did I call back the customer service number in the text. The call connected, and a woman's voice was very standard. Hello, may I help you? I tried to keep my voice steady. I received a text about a credit check authorization. I didn't do it. Who submitted it in your system? The other party verified a few pieces of information and said, Sir, our system shows it was submitted yesterday morning at one of our offline partner locations. Where is the partner location? The person gave an address. It was less than 2 kilometers from the notary office. My chest felt like it had been punched. Who was the submitter? I asked. The person needs to be present to verify their identity. We cannot disclose that over the phone. I hung up the phone and leaned against the wall, my back drenched in a cold sweat. Yesterday morning, I didn't go to the notary office. Lin Jixia did. She didn't go to be humiliated. She might have gone to, using a copy of my ID card, sign the authorization for me. I remembered how she always liked to keep my documents in her small file pouch. She used to say, I'll organize them for you. You're too forgetful. I even thought she was meticulous. Now I only felt a lingering fear. The locksmith called from the door. Sir, it's done. You can try it. I walked over, reached out to turn the key, and the lock bolt shot out with a click. The new lock was very tight, like it finally had a boundary. I paid him and saw him out. The moment the door closed, I immediately grabbed my car keys and left. I didn't play any music on the way. The only sound in the car was the click-clack of the turn signal, as if reminding me to stop pretending everything was fine. The partner location was in a small alley. The sign read, Consulting Services, and the glass door was covered with small ads. I pushed the door open. The air smelled of cheap air freshener. A young girl sat at the front desk, scrolling through her phone. I showed her the text. I didn't authorize this. Who from your office submitted it? The girl looked up at me, her expression immediately turning cautious. Sir, please wait a moment. I'll get the person in charge. The person in charge came out, a middle-aged man wearing a gold chain, with a very slick smile. Oh, a misunderstanding. He invited me in. We follow all the proper procedures here. I didn't sit down. In the proper procedures, where is the authorization form? I asked who signed it. His smile stiffened for a moment. Sir, don't get excited. It might be a system error. I stared at him. Get yesterday's authorization documents now. I'll verify them on the spot. If you can't, I'm calling the police. I didn't say the words calling the police loudly, but they were firm. The middle-aged man's expression changed instantly. His smile half vanished. He turned and went into the back room to search for documents, coming out with a form in his hand. I saw the signature line at a glance. It was signed sloppily, but I could tell it was a deliberate attempt to imitate my handwriting. Next to it was a copy of an ID card. Mine. Except next to the photo was a small, blurry, on-site picture. A person with their head down, hair tied up, wearing a small silver stud in their ear. I recognized the earring. I gave it to her. A buzzing roared in my head, as if something inside had completely shattered. The manager started trying to smooth things over again. Sir, you see this. It was probably a family member acting on her behalf. Many couples do this to save time. I held the form in my hand, its edges trembling slightly. On her behalf, I let out a small laugh. We're not married yet. The manager's expression soured. Well, then just cancel it. Please don't make things difficult for us. Cancel it, I said. Do it for me right now. He stammered. To cancel, the other party needs to be present to sign and confirm. I looked up. Who is the other party? He glanced at the photo of the earring, then at me, and finally whispered a name. Lin Jixia. I slapped the form back down on the desk. Make me a copy of this, I said, and save the surveillance footage from your store. Don't delete it. If I can't cancel this today, I'll go through official channels. He nodded quickly. Yes, of course. We'll cooperate. I walked out with the copy, the sunlight stinging my eyes. I stood at the alley entrance and lit a cigarette. I hadn't taken 2 puffs before my hand started to shake violently. I wasn't angry that she wanted security. What I was angry about was she no longer saw me as a person. She saw me as a manipulable authorization, as a signable co-borrower. I crushed out the cigarette and dialed Lin Jixia's number. It rang for a long time before she answered, her voice hoarse. What are you calling for now? I didn't yell. Did you use my ID card to authorize a credit check yesterday? I asked. The other end of the line was silent for a few seconds. Those seconds were like a knife, slowly slicing away my last shred of hope. She finally spoke, her tone harsh, as if trying to seize the high ground. I was just asking if a loan was possible. Just asking won't kill anyone. Do you have to be like this? I gripped the phone, my knuckles turning white. If you were just asking, why did you sign my name? I said, why did you use a copy of my ID card? Her voice suddenly turned shrill. Wasn't it for us? So that our future could be a little easier. Now you've changed the locks, halted the wedding, and you're still clinging to this one thing. What exactly do you want? I laughed a cold laugh. What do I want? I said, I want to take myself out of your for us. Your so-called us is your family's financial hole that I have to fill, your mom wanting a house, you wanting a loan limit. Everything you people lack is called us. She went silent. I could hear faint sobs on her end, as if she was trying to suppress them. She spoke very softly. I really had no choice. My mom pressures me every day, and my dad can barely breathe. If you won't help, I can only find a way myself. I closed my eyes. Finding a way isn't the same as breaking the law, I said with restraint. And it's not the same as throwing me under the bus. I hung up the phone. Back in the car, I looked at the copy on the passenger seat. It felt like I was looking at an IOU. I suddenly remembered the dust on the back of that earring. It wasn't an old item dug out from the bottom of a drawer. She got it yesterday when she ran down that alley. When she came home, she had even argued with me. It's none of your business. I started the car and drove to the wedding planning company. While I got there, I sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel, and took 3 deep breaths before I could push the door open and get out. The receptionist at the wedding company smiled sweetly. Mr. Su, you're here. We've just updated the wedding plan. I cut her off. The wedding is on hold. The deposit will be handled according to the contract. Refund whatever is refundable. She was stunned. Huh? Why so suddenly? I placed the contract on the desk and pointed to the clause. Follow this. Her smile faltered. We'll have to confirm with our director. I nodded. Confirm. Get back to me today. I turned and left, my steps steady. But when I reached the elevator, my fingers were shaking badly. I don't want to be the person who calls everything off just like that. But even more, I don't want to be the person whose signature is forged. The elevator door reflected my face, dark circles under my eyes, the corners of my mouth tight. I suddenly realized this relationship didn't start to go bad with yesterday's message. It started the first time she went through my phone and said, "What are you so anxious about?" It started the first time she took my ID documents and said, "I'll keep these for you. It's just that I had always mistaken control for care." I returned home. The house was quiet. The new lock on the door glinted with a metallic sheen, as if reminding me, boundaries are something you have to install yourself. I sat on the sofa and spread out the copy, and then spread out the credit approval notification next to it. 2 pieces of paper. One detailed her father's deficit, the other, her way of reaching for me. I suddenly understood a cruel fact. She wasn't just momentarily confused. She was probing to see where the knife could go in, and then she stabbed. At 3 in the afternoon, my mom called. She was anxious from the moment she spoke. Chung, what's going on with you and Jixia? Her mom called and yelled at me, saying you kicked her daughter out and changed the locks. Did you do something to wrong her? I closed my eyes and leaned my forehead against the wall. That familiar sense of nausea returned. They always spread their version of the story first, then force me to explain. My mom was panting on the other end of the line. Don't make me angry. Just tell me clearly. I didn't argue with my mom. Mom, I said, I'll come home tonight and explain it to you in person. After hanging up, I opened WeChat. Our 2 families had a group chat called One Big Happy Family, a name Lin Jixia had come up with. The profile picture was a photo of us at the beach. The messages in the group were flying by. Her mom had sent a long voice message full of aggression. Her aunt typed, "What's wrong with a girl wanting a little security? If the man is unwilling, he must have something to hide." Her cousin sent a laughing, crying emoji. Lin Jixia hadn't said a word. Her silence was like an admission. I stared at the screen, my fingers frozen. In the past, in situations like this, I would have messaged her privately, asking her to explain, asking her not to blow things up. I would have been the first to back down for the sake of decency. But this time, I didn't want to put myself back in that position. I opened my photo album and found the screenshot of last night's text message. Mom, don't change the last clause. We have to get the house. Don't be soft-hearted. I then opened a folder and took 2 photos of the credit authorization text and a copy of the partnership agreement, making sure to hide any sensitive information, leaving only the signature and the date visible, along with a blurry photo of the earring from the scene. I placed these images in the input box, my finger hovering for 2 seconds. Then I sent them. I only added one sentence. I'm stopping the wedding, not because I'm afraid of commitment, but because I'm afraid of being plotted against. Please stop spreading rumors. The moment the message was sent, the group fell silent as a sudden power outage. 2 minutes later, her mom exploded. What do you mean? You secretly recorded videos? You're slandering us. I didn't respond to her shouting. I only replied with 4 words. You sent a message. Her mom sent another voice message, her voice shrill and piercing. That was me as a mother, reminding my daughter. For a man like you to make an issue out of something like this, aren't you disgusting? I stared at the words a mother, reminding, and chuckled. A reminder to take my house. A reminder for her not to be soft-hearted. A reminder to treat me as a target. I typed, reminding is fine, taking is not. Lin Jixia finally spoke. She sent a very short text message. Su Chung, do you have to be like this? I looked at the sentence, a dull ache spreading through my chest. I remembered the first time we met. She was wearing a white shirt, waiting for me at the subway entrance, holding a hot milk tea, and said, Don't be nervous. I'm nervous too. I remembered her leaning on my shoulder, saying, Just don't lie to me. I also remembered her taking my documents, saying, I'll keep them safe for you. All that gentleness now felt hollowed out from the inside. I replied to her, You started this. She didn't say anything else. People in the group started trying to smooth things over. Her dad sent a message. Everyone calm down. Don't fight in the group. Her mom immediately replied, Calm down? Our daughter is being bullied, and you're telling her to calm down. I looked at the screen, a sudden sense of peace washing over me. I wasn't trying to win an argument in the group chat. I was laying out the facts, removing myself from their story. I put my phone away and went to my parents' house. The sky had turned overcast on the way, the clouds hanging low, as if it was about to snow. When I arrived at the door, my mom was already waiting, her eyes red. As soon as I entered, she grabbed my sleeve. What on earth is going on with you and Jixia? You two are about to get married. How did it come to this? I took off my coat, hung it up, and sat down on the sofa. My dad was sitting opposite me, silent, just pushing a cup of tea in front of me. I placed a few pieces of paper on the coffee table. Mom, take a look at this first, I said. My mom picked them up, and her face changed after a single glance. Her fingers trembled as she flipped to the last clause, her lips quivering. What is this? The house goes entirely to her. Ambiguous chats also count. I nodded. She asked me to sign it. Tears streamed down my mom's face. How could she do this? I thought she was a sensible girl. My dad finally spoke, his voice low. Is her family in some kind of trouble? Yes, I said. Her dad has a financial shortfall, and her mom wants to use my house to cover it. I didn't make my words too harsh. I just briefly explained the credit authorization incident. When my mom heard signed your name, her face turned pale, as if she had been slapped. She dared to sign your name? Her voice trembled. What else would you dare to do after this? My dad put down his teacup. The bottom knocked against the glass, making a dull thud. This marriage can't happen. That was all he said. I looked at my dad, and the strength I had been forcing myself to maintain suddenly eased a little. It turned out I wasn't carrying this alone. My mom wiped her tears, choking back sobs. Then what will you do? The deposit, the relatives, our reputation. Reputation isn't worth an apartment, I said. Nor is it worth me spending the rest of my life in fear. My voice was steady when I said that. My mom nodded, then started crying again. How did you end up in a situation like this? I didn't answer. Encountering it isn't the problem. Seeing it clearly is. By the time I left my parents' house, the sky was already dark. The street lights were on, and the ground reflected a wet gleam, as if it had just rained. I returned to the new apartment. The moment I opened the door, a blast of cold air from the entryway hit my face. The house felt incredibly empty. I turned on the lights one by one. The light filled every corner, but couldn't fill the sudden loss of weight. My phone rang again. It was Lin Jixia. I answered, but didn't speak. She spoke first, her voice soft, as if its sharp edges had been worn smooth. You sent the screenshot to the group chat. Yes, I said. She was silent for a long while. My mom is going crazy right now, she said. She says you've ruined me. I stared at the wall clock in the living room. The second hand ticked loudly. The one who ruined you was her. We have to get the apartment line, I said. Not me sending the screenshot. Lin Jixia's breathing grew heavier, as if she were trying hard to suppress her emotions. Su Chung, I know I was wrong, she finally said. About the credit report. I shouldn't have hidden it from you, and I definitely shouldn't have signed on your behalf. I didn't reply immediately. I waited for her to finish. She choked up a little. I was really desperate then. My mom was pressuring me, and my dad sighed. I could only try to find a solution first. I thought you would understand. Understanding doesn't equal agreeing, I said. Her voice got even lower. So, is there still a chance for us? I looked at the stack of papers on the table. I had already torn off the last page of the agreement. The remaining words were like a promise that had been flayed, hollow, and cold. Maybe, I said, on the condition that you can stand up, stop your mom, and explain yourself clearly. Not by crying, not by begging, but by laying everything out on the table. Lin Jixia fell silent. In the silence, I could hear her swallowing, as if she were gulping down a truth she didn't want to admit. I can't do it, she finally said. If I turn on her, I won't have a family anymore. A pang of pain shot through my heart. But after the pain came clarity. Her inability to do it was her choice. But she couldn't turn her inability into a reason for my sacrifice. Then you should go back to your family, I said. I need to get back to my own life. Suppressed sobs came from the other end of the line. She seemed to want to say something more, but in the end, she only managed to squeeze out one sentence. You're truly ruthless. I held the phone in my ear. My voice was very soft, but very clear. I'm not ruthless, I said. I've just finally learned to be responsible for myself. I hung up the phone. The room fell silent again. I walked to the entryway and picked up the old set of keys. The keychain we had bought together was still on them, shaped like a small house with the word home written on it. I stared at that word, suddenly finding it ironic. I took the keychain off and put it in a drawer. Only the keys remained cold metal, with no meaning attached. I went to the balcony and pushed open the window. The night wind rushed in, carrying a hint of the city's dust. I stood there for a long time, until the tightness in my chest slowly dissipated. I knew that starting tonight, I would lose many things. The wedding, the photos, the us in our social media posts. But I'd also gotten one thing back. Myself. Section 7. She came to get her things. I set the boundaries at the door first. At 10:05 in the morning, the property management sent me a message. Mr. Su, Ms. Lin has arrived. I stared at the screen, my palms still breaking out in a thin layer of sweat. It was clearly my own apartment, yet I felt like I was waiting for an interrogation. I turned on all the lights in the living room and pulled the curtains halfway. I placed only 2 things on the coffee table, a list I had written out, and that ring box. It had taken me a long time to find the ring box last night. It was in the very back of a drawer, the red velvet surface pressed with a crease like some kind of shelved passion. When the doorbell rang, I stood behind the door and first looked through the peephole. Lin Jixia stood outside, pulling a small suitcase. She wasn't wearing makeup today. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her lips were dry and peeling. Her mother wasn't behind her. The tension in my chest eased a little. I opened the door, but not too wide. Come in, I said. She looked up at me, as if searching my face for any sign that I might soften up. Finding none, her gaze dimmed. She moved slowly as she changed her shoes, as if dragging time along with her. The wheels of her suitcase rumbled softly against the floor tiles, like a thread pulling our past life, bit by bit, back into the living room. She didn't start packing her things first. She stood in the entryway and said in a low voice, "You changed the lock." "Yes," I said. "You told me when you would be coming, and I informed the building management in advance." She bit her lip. "Are you afraid I'd bring someone with me?" I didn't answer whether I was afraid or not. "I just don't want anything to happen that I can't control," I said. She looked up, the rims of her eyes quickly turning red. "Su Chung, are you really going to treat me like a stranger?" Seeing her tears, my chest felt a little tight. Before, whenever she cried, only one thought would remain in my head. Don't let her be sad. Now, another thought had been added. Don't let yourself regret it. You're entering this home now to pack your things, I said, not to circle back to the same old arguments. It was as if my words had stung her. Her breathing quickened, and her voice trembled. I admit I was wrong. I shouldn't have hidden the credit report issue from you. I went home last night and argued until midnight, and my mom even smashed my phone. As she spoke, her fingers tightened on the hem of her clothes, as if trying to physically hand this hardship to me. I'm not telling you this because I want your pity, she said, raising her eyes. I just want you to know I didn't mean to hurt you. I nodded. I believe you didn't mean to hurt me, I said, but you to do something that would hurt me. Her tears stopped abruptly, as if blocked by my words. The living room was quiet, save for the sound of the air conditioner. I pushed the list towards her. The list was simple, her belongings in this apartment, organized by room into a few lines. I had written it last night while packing. As my fingers touched her lipstick, hand cream, and hairpins, it felt like a fine needle was pricking my heart again and again. She lowered her head to look at it, her voice even softer. You've already packed everything. It saves time, I said. Her finger paused on the line, bedroom, various clothing items, and she suddenly looked up. What about our wedding? I didn't look away. It's off, I said. I've already been to the wedding planner. The deposit will be handled according to the contract. I've refunded everything that could be refunded. I've called the hotel as well. She looked as if she hadn't understood, staring blankly for 2 seconds before it registered. You. A lump moved in her throat. How could you be so fast? I gave a faint smile. If you all could be so fast as to write that the house belongs to you, I could be just as fast in bringing my life to a halt. Her shoulders trembled visibly, as if she'd been struck by a silent blow. She pulled her suitcase and walked towards the bedroom, her steps a little unsteady. I didn't follow. I stood in the living room, watching her carry out a pile of clothes from the bedroom, then go to the bathroom for her cosmetics. Her movements became more and more frantic, as if she were desperate to leave behind some trace of, I was once the lady of this house, and at the same time, desperate to escape. As she was making her third trip, the doorbell rang again. My heart sank. The face pressed close to the peephole was her mother's again. Next to her mom stood a woman I'd never seen before, wearing fur, a here for the drama kind of smile on her face. I didn't open the door immediately. I stood behind it and took a deep breath. Lin Jixia rushed out from the bedroom, her face instantly pale. Don't open it. I'll go. She reached out to stop me. I raised a hand to block her. The movement wasn't forceful, but it was firm. I opened the door, just a crack. You dare not open the door? Her mother exploded the moment she saw me, her voice like a knife. My daughter is in here, packing her things. What do you think this door is? A prison gate. I looked at her calmly. Auntie, Jixia is inside packing. She'll be out within the agreed-upon time. It's not appropriate for you to come up now. Her mom pushed forward, trying to squeeze in. I held the door firm, not letting her. Her mom pointed a finger at my nose and cursed. You changed the lock, you sent that message to the group chat, and now you're blocking me? Su-chung, don't think you're so great just because you have an apartment. The woman beside her chimed in, her tone dripping with insinuation. Oh, young people. It's one thing to argue, but don't make it too ugly. The girl has been with you for 2 years. You have to give her some kind of resolution. I didn't look at the woman. I stared only at her mother. I've already made the resolution clear in the group chat. Today, she is here to get her things. After she gets them, she leaves. If you want to cause a scene, do it outside the door. Don't come in. Her mother was trembling with anger, her eyes looking like they were about to pop out. You won't let me in? My daughter's things are in there. I stepped aside, letting her see the suitcase and packing bags in the entryway. She is getting her things herself, I said. You don't need to come in. Just then, Lin Jixia walked to the door, her voice low, yet tinged with the exhaustion of someone who had given up the fight. Mom, go home, she said. If you keep making a scene, I'm not coming home. Her mom, as if struck by this retort, froze for a moment, then became even fiercer. You dare. You just try not coming home. Lin Jixia didn't flinch. Her eyes were red as she bit out. I've been humiliated enough already. Her mom's face stiffened, as if she never expected her daughter to talk back in front of me. I took advantage of the gap to close and lock the door. The click of the deadbolt sounded like a line being drawn inside the room. Lin Jixia leaned against the door, her shoulders trembling. She wasn't crying. She just stood there, as if she suddenly didn't know where she belonged. Don't fight with her, I said. She looked up, her voice hoarse. If I don't fight, she'll just keep being like this. I didn't answer. I picked up the ring box and held it out to her. The moment she saw the box, her eyes finally welled up with tears. She didn't reach for it. I put the ring box into the outer pocket of her suitcase and zipped it up. "Take this back," I said. "I'm not wearing it, and I'm not keeping it." Her lips moved, as if she wanted to say, "I don't want it," or maybe "don't be like this." In the end, she just asked in a low voice, "Is there really no chance for us anymore?" I looked at her, a sourness rising in my heart, which I forced back down. "A chance isn't built on me being soft-hearted," I said. "If what you want is someone your mom can order around, I can't be that person." She nodded, as if finally admitting a fact. She dragged her suitcase to the door, paused for half a second, and glanced back at the living room. The lights were bright like a stage after the show has ended. She opened the door, and the noise from outside immediately flooded in. Her mom was still yelling, her aunt still trying to placate her. Lin Jixia didn't talk back. She just pulled her suitcase away, its wheels clattering loudly down the hallway. The door closed, shutting the noise out. I stood in the entryway, my hand pressed against the door, my palm feeling a slight chill. I felt no sense of victory, only a single, very clear feeling. I was finally done handing myself over to please anyone else. Section 8. I went to patch 3 vulnerabilities, only to realize how easily I had been used before. In the afternoon, I went to the bank. Not to borrow money. It was to extract myself from being manipulable. The lobby was crowded, with numbers being called out one after another. I sat in the waiting area, clutching my ID card, my thumb repeatedly rubbing the plastic film, as if to confirm it was still in my hand. When my number was called, the teller looked up. "Sir, what can I help you with today?" "I want to turn on the highest level of notifications for all my accounts," I said. "Text messages, app push notifications, unusual login alerts, everything you've got. Also, I need to check for any recent authorization records." The teller paused for a moment, then nodded. "Of course, let me take a look for you." As she typed, the light from the screen reflected off her glasses, like a cold mirror. I stared at that mirror, and suddenly remembered Lin Jixia used to always say, "Don't be so nervous. The world isn't as bad as you think." But the bad things never come from the world. They come from people you know, from the us you thought you had. The teller pushed a form toward me to sign and confirm. I deliberately slowed down as I signed, writing each stroke carefully. The moment I finished, I was struck by a sense of absurdity. When she forged my signature, she was surely more fluid than I am now, because she'd seen it so many times. She also knew in what situations I would give in. The teller asked again, "Sir, do you also need to activate credit inquiry alerts?" "Yes," I said. "You might get frequent alerts." "The more frequent, the better," I said. She gave me a look, but didn't ask any more questions. After leaving the bank, I walked to my car and realized my back was damp with a layer of sweat. It wasn't from the heat. It was from the fear that comes afterward. I got into the car, and the first thing I did was change all my commonly used passwords. Halfway through, I suddenly stopped, my fingertip hovering over the screen. I remembered the way she would hold my phone and say, "Let me organize this for you." Back then, I thought it was intimacy. Now I understand that once intimacy loses its boundaries, it just becomes convenience. Convenience to the point where she could make decisions for me. Convenience to the point where she could sign for me. I finished changing the passwords, placed my phone on the passenger seat, and drove home. Passing the package lockers at the entrance to my residential community, I suddenly remembered there was still a pile of wedding stuff I hadn't dealt with. Wedding candy, invitations, the little boxes for party favors. When we were picking them out, her eyes lit up as she said, "This one is pretty. It'll look great in photos." I had smiled back then and said, "Okay, as long as you like it." Now all those photogenic things were piled in my living room like a stack of unopened irony. I got home and opened the door. The light from the living room spilled out. I stood at the doorway, not going in immediately. I placed my hand on the new lock. The metal was cold, as if pulling me back from my emotions. I walked in and started packing. I didn't pick up each item and reminisce. I just went through the motions, putting the wedding candy boxes into a cardboard box, stacking the invitations and sealing them in a bag, cutting the ribbons off the wedding favors and throwing them in the trash. The snap of the scissors cutting the ribbon was particularly crisp. My hand paused for a moment before I continued cutting. When I cut the last one, I heard myself finally let out the breath I had been holding. I moved the 2 large boxes to the door, ready to contact the vendors for a return tomorrow. The boxes were heavy, making my fingers numb from the strain. I sat on the floor, catching my breath when my phone rang. It wasn't Lin Jixia, but a WeChat friend request from a stranger. The note read, "Jixia's mom." I stared at those words, my eyes starting to sting, yet I also felt an urge to laugh. Even her "add me" sounded like a declaration of jurisdiction. I didn't accept. Just as I put my phone down, her mom started sending messages in the group chat again. This time, she wasn't scolding, but had switched to reasoning. "Su Chung, let me tell you the truth. It's only natural for a woman to want security. If you truly want to build a life together, don't be so stubborn. We're not unreasonable. If the house is in Jixia's name, we're willing to listen to you from now on." I looked at that "listen to you from now on," and the corner of my mouth twitched. Listen to me? What they'd listen to is the "do as you please" after they got the house. I didn't reply. I left the group chat. As I left, a system notification popped up. "You will no longer receive messages from this group." I tapped confirm. The moment the screen fell silent, my heart quieted down as well. I called Zhou Fang. "Don't laugh," I said first. On the other end, he was clearly holding back laughter. "I'm not laughing. Go on. I've stopped the wedding, and I'm returning everything," I said. "In that joint project, I got the photocopy, and I've asked them to save the surveillance footage." Zhou Fang said, his tone becoming serious. "The most correct thing you can do right now is to stop dealing with them emotionally. Stick to the facts. Facts are always harder than tears." I leaned back on the sofa, looking up at the recessed lighting in the ceiling. The light trough was clean. The construction team had done a good job. I suddenly remembered the phrase, "Once the renovation is done, we'll truly have a home." A home isn't a light trough, nor is it an invitation. And it's certainly not a name on a property deed. A home is where you don't have to be on guard. I hung up and sent a message to Lin Jixia. I didn't write a long tirade. "All your things were taken away today. From now on, don't use my personal information for anything. We're done here." After sending it, I unpinned her chat from the top. I didn't delete her. Whether I deleted her or not didn't matter. What mattered was that I would no longer wait for her reply. That night, I thoroughly cleaned the living room. I mopped the floor once. The sound of the dirty water pouring down the drain was a loud whoosh, as if washing away a small piece of the past. After my shower, I stood in front of the mirror brushing my teeth. Foam overflowed from the corner of my mouth, but I didn't rush to wipe it away. I looked at myself in the mirror, suddenly feeling like a stranger. So this is what a person looks like when they protect themselves, so cold. But I no longer felt that being cold was wrong. Cold is a boundary. It's my way of surviving. Section 9. Her dad asked me for coffee. The first thing he said wasn't an apology, but a plea not to blow things up. On a weekend afternoon, Lin Jixia's father asked to meet me at a coffee shop outside the residential complex. The message he sent was short. "I want to talk to you. Let's not do it in the group chat." I looked at the message, my finger hovering for a few seconds. I didn't hate him anymore. Hate is a word that consumes too much energy. I just wanted it to be over. The coffee shop wasn't large, nor was it crowded. He sat in a corner, a cup of black coffee in front of him, untouched. I sat down. He looked up at me, his eyes full of exhaustion. He spoke first, his voice low. "Little Sue, can I ask you a favor? Can we please not let this matter escalate any further?" I picked up my water glass and took a sip. The temperature was just right. "Uncle, I didn't escalate it," I said. "I just presented the evidence when I was being slandered." He nodded, as if he knew I wasn't wrong. His fingers fiddled with the coffee sleeve, wrinkling it. "Jixiashi." He paused. "She's been in a very bad state these past few days." I didn't respond to that. I knew he was trying to steer the conversation towards pity, but I was past that stage. "She's in a bad state because she's caught between you two," I said. "And also because she chose to use my assets to plug your family's financial hole." He sighed, his eyes a little red. "You're right. I actually saw the message her mom sent that day. I couldn't stop her." I looked at him and asked directly, "Uncle, you couldn't stop her because you also felt that my house should be used to bail you out?" He froze, his Adam's apple bobbed, as if I had struck his most vulnerable spot. He shook his head. That's not what I meant. He paused for 2 seconds before finally getting the words out. I really can't. I was too proud when I was young and co-signed a loan for someone. Now, all the debt has come crashing back down on me. I know I shouldn't drag you two into this, but the moment I bring it up, her mom explodes and Jixia is caught in the middle. Miserable. I looked at his hands. The knuckles were thick, the nails trimmed short, and the palms were calloused. These hands had clearly worked hard, had supported a family. But now, they were trembling slightly on the tabletop. Uncle, I can understand your hardship, I said, but I can't accept the wrong methods you've used. He looked up, a flicker of hope in his eyes. Then, are you willing to help us think of a solution? Not by giving us the house, but we'll solve it ourselves, as long as you don't abandon Jixia. When I heard, don't abandon her, my heart still ached. But pain was pain. I still shook my head. I can't use marriage to help you solve this, I said. That's not helping. That's dragging me down too. He was silent for a long time, as if finally admitting this path was a dead end. He took a transparent document sleeve from his bag and pushed it across the table to me. Inside were a few photocopies of my ID card and a copy of my household registration book that I had given Lin Jixia before. I stared at the papers, a chill running through me. So, she had been holding more than just one. He said in a low voice, I've taken all of these back from her. I also had her tear up whatever her mom had. I didn't reach for it immediately. I stared at the document sleeve and asked the credit check authorization form. What do you plan to do about that? He looked up, his gaze faltering for a moment. I'll have Jixia withdraw it. She already knows she was wrong. I nodded. After it's withdrawn, give me the receipt, I said. That's the bottom line. He nodded repeatedly. Okay. He added also, about the wedding deposits, if you have any losses, can we share some of the cost? I gave a short, small laugh. Uncle, I'm not short on that little bit of money, I said. What I'm short on is security. His eyes grew redder, his voice hoarse. I know. I'm sorry. I took the document sleeve, my fingers pinching the corner, the plastic making a soft, rustling sound. Uncle, you don't need to apologize to me, I said. What you need to do is stop letting your daughter use these methods to save you. He hung his head, silent for a long while. The cafe's background music was soft, but the sound of a cup touching the table was clear. He finally looked up, his voice almost pleading. Little Sue, in the future, don't send those words her mom said anymore. She's stubborn and proud. If things really blow up, she'll go crazy. I looked at him, saying neither yes nor no. I only said, I won't start anything. But if they come trampling on me again, I won't tolerate it anymore. He nodded, as if crushed even lower by my won't tolerate it. We sat for a while longer, neither of us speaking. As I stood up to leave, he suddenly called out to me. Do you still love Jixia? He asked very softly, as if afraid of hurting himself. I paused for a second. I didn't say I do or I don't. Uncle, I once saw her as the person I would spend the rest of my life with, I said. But now, I'd rather see myself as the person I will spend the rest of my life with. His eyes were instantly filled with shame. I didn't look at him again and turned to walk out of the cafe. The wind outside was cold, the sky a pale gray. I put the document sleeve in my bag and walked home with steady steps. In the residential complex, someone was airing out blankets, children were chasing each other, and neighbors were carrying groceries home. Life hadn't stopped. The only thing that had stopped was my old way of wronging myself just to avoid a fight. I returned to the new apartment. The moment I opened the door, the new lock made a soft click, as if reminding me. Chapter 10. She sent the withdrawal receipt, but I received an invitation first. Monday morning, just as I got to the office, the receptionist handed me a package. It was a thin craft paper envelope, sealed tightly, as if afraid its contents might escape. I opened it. Inside was a red invitation card. The gilt lettering was piercingly familiar. Engagement party. Below were the time and place, signed by the Lin family. I stared at those 2 words, my fingers stiffening for a few seconds. It felt like a block of ice had been shoved into my stomach. I thought they would lie low for a while, at least until the credit check was withdrawn, but they had sent the invitation to my company. This wasn't an invitation, it was a compulsion, forcing me to show my attitude under everyone's watchful eyes. I placed the invitation on my desk. The gilt lettering reflected the light, as if mocking the bit of decency I had shown before. My phone vibrated. It was Lin Jixia. She sent a screenshot with a clear title, Successful Withdrawal Receipt. Below it was a sentence, I withdrew it. Stop making a scene. I stared at that stop making a scene. The breath caught in my chest. She thought retracting the receipt was some kind of get-out-of-jail-free card, one that would buy my continued silence, my willingness to keep shouldering the public pressure from her mother. I didn't reply to her. I screenshotted the retraction, saved it, and sent it to Zhou Fong for backup. Then I picked up the invitation and walked to the break room. The sunlight outside the break room window was bright. Colleagues were making coffee, idly chatting about who was engaged, who was getting married. I turned the invitation over and saw a small QR code printed in the corner, like some kind of all-in-one portal. I scanned it with my phone. A mini program page for collecting gift money popped up. The title was blunt, Engagement Gift Registry. Below it, a line of small text read, Please register your attendance in advance to facilitate seating arrangements. Staring at that line of text, my fingertips went numb. They didn't want to host a banquet. They wanted to collect gifts. More accurately, they wanted to use my name to collect gifts. I took a screenshot and closed the page. Back at my desk, I sent my first message to Lin Jixia. The invitation was sent to my company. It has a QR code for gift money. Did you know? She didn't reply for a long time. 10 minutes later, she sent back a single sentence. My mom sent it. I stared at the screen and suddenly found it laughable. My mom again. She blamed her mother for every line that was crossed and left me to bear all the consequences. I typed, I received your retraction. Thank you for that. But it doesn't mean I agree to you continuing to do things in my name. She replied, I'm not using your name. I took a photo of the front of the invitation and sent it to her. It read, Groom, Su Chung. Silence from her end. Looking at that silence, my mind grew clearer. It wasn't that she didn't know. She just hoped that I would swallow it and let it go like I always had. My phone vibrated again. This time, it was a direct call from her mother. I didn't answer. She called 3 times in a row. I still didn't answer. Immediately after, someone mentioned me in the family group chat. Her aunt wrote, Su Chung, the engagement invitations have all been sent out. Stop playing dead. Don't be so ruthless. I stared at the message, my fingers frozen. I didn't want to argue in the group chat. But even more, I didn't want them to keep forcing me into the script they had written. I opened my laptop and wrote a short block of text. To everyone, the wedding arrangements between Lin Jixia and myself were officially put on hold on January X. I have already notified the wedding planner/hotel, etc. I have never agreed to and will not attend any engagement/wedding/banquet events held in my name. Please do not use my name to send invitations or collect gift money again. I'm not responsible for any consequences that may arise. I screenshotted the text and posted it in the group. After sending it, I set the group to Do Not Disturb and turn off my phone. In that moment, I felt no satisfaction, only exhaustion. It was like I had finally moved a heavy stone that had been crushing my chest onto the ground. At noon, I went downstairs for lunch. My phone screen lit up and went dark again, as if flooded with countless messages. I didn't look. I finished my meal and went back to the office. At 3 in the afternoon, Lin Jixia sent me a voice message. Her voice was hoarse, as if she had been crying all night. Su Chung, do you really have to back me into a corner like this? My mom is at home smashing things, calling me useless, saying I'll never get married. She also said she's going to come to your company and make a scene. After listening, I didn't reply immediately. I sat in my chair, holding the mouse, but my fingertips had no strength. I knew what she wanted. She wanted me to back down again. She wanted me to return to being the manipulable groom for the sake of not making a scene. I opened a drawer and took out the file folder. Inside were the photocopies of my documents that I had taken back. Looking at those papers, I suddenly understood. I was never the one backing her into a corner. I had simply stepped out of the circle they had drawn for me, and they panicked. I replied with one sentence. If she comes to make a scene, you call the police. I will call the police on my end as well. She replied instantly. How can you be so cold-blooded? I stared at the word cold-blooded, my palms sweating. Before, hearing this word would have made me panic, made me want to explain myself, to prove that I wasn't cold-blooded. Now, I just found it ridiculous. Printing my name on the invitation was cold-blooded. Writing my house into the agreement was cold-blooded. Using my identity for authorization was cold-blooded. Yet they were the ones calling me cold-blooded. I didn't reply again. I placed my phone face down on the desk and continued to work. After work, I didn't go back to the new apartment. I went to the gym. On the treadmill, my breathing was heavy, sweat streaming down my neck. I looked at my reflection in the mirror, cranking up the speed notch by notch. Every heartbeat was distinct. For so long, I had been swept up in their emotions. Now, I wanted to reclaim the feeling of my own body. By the end of the run, my legs were weak and my chest ached sharply. But the pain was real. It wasn't like the passive pain from before, the pain of being pushed along. I came out of the shower to an unread message on my phone. An unknown number. Suchung, it's Ji Xia. Don't block me. I want to see you tonight. I stared at the message for a few seconds. Then I replied with a few words. 10 o'clock, at the gate of the complex. Chapter 11. She said she wanted to start over. I first asked if she dared to stand up to her mom. At 10 o'clock sharp, the streetlight downstairs stretched shadows long. Lin Jixia was standing at the entrance of the convenience store, clutching a bottle of warm milk, just like when she used to wait for me to get off work when we first met. When she saw me, her eyes lit up for a moment, then quickly dimmed. You came, she said. I nodded, but didn't get closer. She took 2 steps closer and stopped, as if afraid I would back away. You got the withdrawal notice, right? She asked. I got it, I said. She let out a sigh of relief, as if thinking that with that sigh, we could go back to how things were. She handed the milk to me. I remember you have a bad stomach. Don't go to bed on an empty one. I didn't take it. The milk bottle wavered in her hand, and the look in her eyes grew more pained. You still hate me, she said in a low voice. I don't hate you, I said. I just can't trust you anymore. This was heavier than hate. Her eyes reddened instantly, and she bit her lip. I really know I was wrong. I didn't know about the invitation. Either my mom sent it behind my back. I already fought with her. She kicked me out, and I'm staying at my best friend's place now. She spoke quickly, as if pouring out all her grievances at once, hoping to trade them for a soft-hearted word from me. I didn't play along with her tale of woe. I asked, did you see my name printed on the invitation? She froze, then nodded. I saw it. When did you see it? She fell silent, as if calculating which answer would cost her the least. Last night, she said. I looked at her. You saw it last night. What did you do before I posted the announcement in the group chat this afternoon? Her lips turned pale. I told her not to do it. You told her. Did she listen? She shook her head, tears falling. She wouldn't listen. She said all men are afraid of losing face, and that if she sent it to your company, you would come back. My breath hitched. When I heard that, it felt like something had stabbed me in the chest. So her mom had me all figured out. And so, Lin Jixia had known all along how her mom was manipulating me. She was just hoping the manipulation would succeed. She wiped her tears, her voice trembling. Suchenk, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Can you give me another chance? We can start over. We don't have to get married. We can take it slow. I'll move out, and we can build a life of our own. When she said a life of our own, her eyes were filled with longing. The longing seemed real, but I had learned to see the conditions behind the longing. If you move out, how will you support yourself? I asked. She was taken aback. I have a job. I can support myself. I nodded. And what about your dad? Your mom? Who's going to cover their deficit? Her face instantly turned pale. She didn't speak, but I had already heard the answer. The deficit was still there. The pressure was still there. She wanted to start over, but it was just a softer way to keep pulling me back in. I stared at her and asked, my voice soft but direct. Jixia, do you dare to do one thing? She looked up, tears clinging to her eyelashes. What? Right now, in front of me, call your mom, I said. Tell her. You will carry your own debts. Don't use my name again, don't bring up the apartment again, and don't send any more invitations. Make it clear, then hang up. Her breathing became ragged. Her fingers tightened around the milk bottle, deforming the plastic. Why do you have to force me to do this? Her voice was laced with tears. I already fought with her. You insisting on this. You just want to see me humiliated. I shook my head. I don't want to see you humiliated, I said. I want to see if you have any boundaries. You didn't have them before. You would just waver between me and your mom. And in the end, you'd hand her the knife, then turn to me and say, there's nothing I can do. The expression on Lin Jixia's face slowly crumbled. A flash of hatred crossed her eyes. The kind of hatred that wasn't for her mother, but for me, for my refusal to continue being a tool. "You just don't trust me that much?" she asked, choking back sobs. "How can you expect me to trust you?" I said. "You withdrew the notice only after I questioned you. You saw the invitation only after I had received it. Not a single step you've taken has been proactive." She opened her mouth to argue, but all that came out were sobs. She cried until her shoulders shook, until even her shadow under the streetlight seemed to tremble. I didn't hug her. I stood my ground, hands in my pockets, my fingertips ice cold. My own heart ached. It ached for the fact that I had once truly wanted to protect her and make her a part of my life. But protecting someone shouldn't mean abandoning yourself. She cried for a long time, and finally looked up, her voice hoarse. "I can't do it. She's my mom." I nodded. "I understand," I said. "Then I can't continue with you either, because I'm not your family's joint property." She seemed shattered by my words, her lips trembling violently. "So, we're over just like that?" I looked at her, pausing for 2 seconds. "Not yet," I said. "Go back and do what I told you to do today. If you really do it, we'll talk. If you can't, don't look for me again." She looked at me, despair and unwillingness in her eyes. Suddenly, she shoved the milk into my arms and turned to leave. After 2 steps, she stopped, her back to me, her voice very soft. "Su-chung, you'll regret this." I didn't chase her. I held the bottle of milk, its surface still warm from her hand. That bit of warmth quickly dissipated in the night wind. I placed the milk on the steps in front of the convenience store. Like putting down a gentle excuse I still wanted to use to deceive myself. Chapter 12. Her mom caused a scene at the company, and I only said one thing. "Please give me my name back." The next morning at 9:30, the front desk called me. "Mr. Su, someone is here to see you. She says she's your future mother-in-law." I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. She came after all. I got up and went downstairs. People were coming and going in the lobby. Her mom was standing at the front desk, her voice loud, holding that wedding invitation in her hand as if it were evidence. "What's wrong with your company? Letting a man like this work here? He deceived my daughter for 2 years, didn't even show up for the engagement banquet, and then blocked our whole family. Where's your manager? Get your manager out here." Colleagues watched from a distance, their gazes like needles. I walked over, my voice not loud. "Auntie." The moment her mom saw me, she rushed over, pointing at my nose and yelling, "You finally dare to show your face? Su-chung, what have you done to my daughter? She cried until she fainted last night. Are you even human?" I didn't back down. I stood in front of her, maintaining a polite distance. "This is where I work," I said. "If you get any louder, I'll call security." Her mom sneered. "Go ahead. You think I'm afraid? Today, I'm going to let everyone see what kind of person you are." She slammed the invitation onto the front desk with a slap. "Look at this. The groom's name is written crystal clear. You're backing out now. Didn't you just want to sleep with her for 2 years for free and take advantage of her?" The receptionist's face turned pale, her fingers trembling as she pressed the button to call security. When I heard the words "sleep with her for free," a sour taste rose in my stomach. I didn't get into a shouting match with her. I just took out my phone from my pocket, opened the photo album, and selected those few screenshots. I held the screen in front of her eyes. Her mom glanced at it, and her expression instantly turned ugly. She tried to snatch the phone, but I pulled it back. "Auntie," I said, "you said in the group chat that you had to get the house. You told her to use my identity to grant authorization, and now you come to my company to cause a scene. Did you think I would back down because I'm afraid of losing face, just like before?" Her mom's lips trembled, and she suddenly started to cry. She cried loudly, like a floodgate opening. "I'm just a mother. My daughter is marrying you. What's wrong with me wanting some security for her? You men are all the same. If you don't put her name on it, you'll change your mind." She cried so loudly that people around stopped to watch. She cried as if she were the victim. Security arrived, standing to the side, hesitating to touch her. I looked at her tears, but my heart didn't soften at all. I only felt exhausted. I said to the security guards, "Please escort her out." A guard stepped forward to persuade her, "Ma'am, please step outside first, and we can talk things over." Her mom clung to the front desk, refusing to let go, crying and shouting, "I'm not leaving. What about my daughter's youth? Who's going to be responsible for that? Looking at her, I suddenly remembered Lin Jixia asking me, "Do you hate me?" Actually, what I hated was this kind of logic. Turning a person's youth into a bargaining chip and another person's house into compensation. Turning love into a contract with terms that only benefit them. I took a step forward, my voice still not loud, but as clear as a nail. "Auntie," I said, "you didn't come here today for your daughter. You came for your family's financial gap." Her mom's crying stopped abruptly, as if she were being choked. I continued, looking straight at her, word by word. "I will not marry her, and I will not give you the house." She seemed to ignite, screaming, "On what grounds? You've ruined my daughter." I didn't explain further. I put my phone back in my pocket and pointed at the invitation. "If you want to cause a scene, you can do it anywhere," I said. "But please give me my name back." While she was stunned, the security guards managed to pry her hands from the desk and half-supported, half-escorted her out of the lobby. Her mother's cries and shouts faded into the distance, like a noise finally shut behind a door. Once the lobby returned to normal, my colleagues dispersed. Someone patted me on the shoulder without a word. The receptionist asked in a low voice, "Brother Sue, are you okay?" I nodded. "I'm fine. Thank you for calling security." Back at my desk, I sat down, my fingers hovering over the keyboard for a long time before I began type. Words appeared on the screen, line by line, as if life were finally returning to its proper track. At noon, I received a message from Lin Jixia. She didn't apologize or explain. She only sent one sentence. "Did my mom go to your company?" I replied, "She did. She's gone now." A long time passed before she responded. Half an hour later, she sent a 4-second voice message. Her voice was soft, as if she were finally admitting defeat. "I am sorry." I listened, but didn't reply immediately. I looked at the sky outside the window. The winter clouds were thin, and the sunlight streamed through, landing on my desk like a silent, straight line. I opened the chat window and typed 2 sentences. I received the withdrawal confirmation. "Thank you. Let's not contact each other again. Send." I put my phone down and got up to get some water. The sound of the running water was like a part of my old life being washed away. I returned to my desk with the cup, sat down, opened my computer, and continued to work. As I turned the page on this chapter of my life, a sense of peace settled in my heart. I didn't get married. I didn't win against anyone. I simply withdrew myself from a transaction. I took my name back from someone else's terms and conditions.